More on the dismissive avoidant. Leslie Wells, connection coach here. I help individuals show up better in their relationships and improve their relationships and earn healthy, secure attachment by looking at things through an attachment lens. Let me preface this by saying two things. First of all, we are not responsible for our attachment styles. They come from our caregivers and our parents early in life. So I want to make sure that everybody has compassion for people who have an insecure attachment style that is no fault of their own. Secondly, I am never making excuses or justifications for people showing up badly in relationships. If you're with a dismissive avoidant and you are being hurt by them and this relationship, you know you're never going to get what you need out of it, and they're breadcrumbing you and you're feeling like you're having to self-abandon all of your needs in the relationship, I'm never telling you that that's okay or that you have to tolerate that. So here's the thing. Dismissive avoidants think that your emotions and your emotional reactions are a sign of weakness. They don't like emotions, and when you have them, they think there's something wrong with you and that you are displaying weakness. And so, a lot of men happen to be dismissive avoidants because of the way that they were brought up, and that's not just a gender thing, that just sort of has to do with their caregivers and maybe the societal pressures to grow, to teach men to be a certain way based on certain things. But a lot of times we see that men aren't in tune with their emotions and that they think that women's emotions are weaknesses, and this truly ties back to attachment style. Attachment style is a far better predictor of how people show up in relationships than gender. That's why you don't hear me talk about gender a whole ton. So here's the thing with the dismissive avoidance. Early in their key attachment years, their parents taught them that emotions and feelings are a bad thing. Whenever they had an issue, they typically would correct, insult, maybe dismiss or ignore their emotions. So they may have been really good parents in the way that they showed up well for their child. They took them to all of their sports events. They showed up to school plays and school functions. They packed their lunch boxes every day. They were present. They were engaged. They celebrated accomplishments and achievements, but they really weren't sure what to do with emotions. And so these are typically parents that did not show their own emotion. Typically, if the parents are together, there wasn't a lot of conflict that was worked out. It was sort of brushed under the rug. So their child never even learned how to deal with conflict. They typically didn't express big emotions, and if their child got hurt or maybe went through a breakup or maybe had somebody really say something insulting at school that hurt their feelings, then they sort of would just say things like, "You're okay, brush it up, it's not a big deal, we don't let other people affect how we feel," or "You'll be okay, you'll be fine." But they quickly dismissed it, and so the child learned very early that it's weird to show your emotions, that their parents don't show their emotions, so there must be something broken and defective with them, that they have big emotions that they tend to feel. And so as a young child, they learn to deal with these emotions by suppressing and distracting, usually through play as a child. As an adult, you will see people who grow up and they really throw themselves into work or hobbies to sort of avoid their emotions. So essentially, they don't know what to do with emotions. They do not know how to identify them. They typically cannot even speak them out loud. So you'll see this especially with a lot of men and avoidance, but they typically will be able to name anger and that's about it. Sometimes there's one emotion that they can't go underneath it. Most people are sort of have this awareness now that we talk about this more, that anger is usually a bodyguard for some other emotion, whether it's rejection, hurt, anger, feeling like you're not good enough. But typically, people who are dismissive avoidants, not only can they not name them, put words to them, they don't know how to process them, let them come up through their body. They don't even know how to have the physical sensations. They've literally numbed their body a lot of time to physical sensations that are our first cue that an emotion is coming on board. And so there's a lot of, there's a book that's really good called The Body Keeps the Score. And one of the things that this psychiatrist or psychologist, as he's working with trauma patients, is that he has dismissive avoidants essentially that are so traumatized that when they have their eyes closed and you put an object in their hand, say a water bottle, they can't even feel that. And one of the things that I find in my practice is a lot of dismissive avoidants cannot even feel the physical sensations in their body that lead up to an emotion. So for example, they will just blow off the handle and never be able to identify when that anger started in their body. For me, as a fearful avoidant, one of the things that I really can feel immediately is okay, my face is getting hot, my hands are starting to tingle, my chest is feeling tight, and I feel like my heart is racing, like I have my stomach butterflies. Those are things that I can easily identify, whereas someone who is a dismissive avoidant usually has a really difficult time identifying any physical sensations in their body, and that's usually where I start to work for them. So all of that to say, they have no idea what to do with emotions. They can't dig deep enough to find them, and then when they do have them, they don't know how to process them. So when you bring them emotion, They are literally overwhelmed, which is what causes that shutdown and back away and that pull away from them is they're overwhelmed. So when they see you coming across as overreactive or sharing your feelings, it very much makes them feel like this person is crazy, like they need to go tuck that away, they need to put that in. Like, why didn't their parents teach them to go to the corner and deal with that on their own or distract or suppress? Because that's what they were taught was normal, and that's what they were taught is what you're supposed to do with emotions. So when you show them the opposite of that, they're like, okay, my threat detection center is going off, this person's lost it, this is not normal, this is not what we're supposed to do with emotions. And that's why they see it as a sign of weakness. So if you want to share it with the dismissive avoidant how you feel because you want to resolve a conflict, or you have a need or a concern, or you have needs that are not being met, you absolutely need to share your feelings with them. A couple of things that I would say is make sure it's the right time for them, make sure that they are in the right headspace where they do not feel overwhelmed already because there's a problem coming. The other thing that I would say is do your best to do it in a short, succinct manner. They are super slow processors. They don't like a lot dropped on them at one time. They want things short and quick. So give them a short scenario of what is going on with you, and then give them space to process that. Step back, let them process. Do not expect any response in that moment because it's very difficult for them to show up in the moment. The other thing that I would say is try to keep it as neutral as you can. If you have really big emotions or you're really upset or really sad about something, then first do a little bit of self-regulation so that you can approach them with neutrality instead of this overly reactive state, because that's really going to push them into their shutdown and withdrawal. I hope this gives you a little bit of insight on the dismissive avoidant and how to handle them. If you are a dismissive avoidant and any of this makes sense or would feel good to you, if someone did have a problem, then put something in the comments to let us know how you feel about it.